What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing round one of this 3-round 2025 NFL mock draft with trades. Just like the NFL draft, this is going to be split up into 2 days, rounds 1 on round 1 and rounds 2 and 3 on day 2. Just like the real thing. Below my face is my board. It is always changing because I am updating all my evaluations, but you guys will be seeing certain players have lost the star next to their name, which means that the guys who I really loved have continued to make their progress and maintained their level of adequacy. So super exciting for that. But also we got some new names that will be popping up here throughout these videos. So super exciting for that. Trying to do the face light, trying to get back through it again I'm in concussion protocol right now from a car accident a couple weeks ago. But let's get on into this. Of course, you're 2 clicks away from going anywhere, including my X page where I post all 22 clips with that link tree. Also, it's a great way to get involved with our sponsor where you get up to $1,000 in bonus cash free. They send me $60, so it always does help because your boy got to find a new car. It's a pain in the ass. But let's get into this. Starting out with the first overall pick, we got the Carolina Panthers. I do not think there is a player that necessarily has garnered the respect to be moved up for, right? Maybe like respect's a poor term, but comparatively, like the opportunity cost, those of you guys who have done economics or fear economics either are getting a nerd boner or else are getting some hella PTSD. Either way, I apologize for everybody around you, including yourself. But I do think that the opportunity cost of moving up for a Will Johnson, like I reevaluated him today. He got a little bit worse, but the fact is he's still a freak alien. Like he doesn't have the recovery speed, but he's also dealing with a knee injury. So there's just reasons for it, right? I love Will Johnson to death. And I think that there are certain teams that could be in the market, but I think that at number 1 overall, there's not a massive threat. And there's not enough teams that are looking for a boundary corner in the top 10 that do not have issues elsewhere. So I do not see Will Johnson at the one position that I do think is actually pretty light on talent being the guy to be able to jump up for. Travis Hunter, I think that I'm glad they have him now listed once again as a wide receiver. They had him as a corner like a couple days ago, and now he's back to wide receiver. That's fun. But I do think that with the loss of Deontay Johnson, trade of Deontay Johnson, it does open up this role which Travis Hunter fits perfectly into. And then technically you can play some defensive back roles, but follow the money, wide receiver 24, cornerback number 3 get paid the same, or wide receiver 23, corner 4 get paid the exact same. Travis Hunter is the first overall pick. Again, to be able to trade down, you have to have teams willing to move up. At pick number 2 for the Tennessee Titans, it is certainly interesting. You are in a position where I do think offensive line is not a bad position to target here. I think it should be one of the most likely positions outside of edge rusher. Now, I do think that this class has plenty of developmental players that you could end up sniping down the line. And that might make me feel like I want to take an alternate route because I do like going the Will Campbell route for Tennessee, let him play on the other side of the line of scrimmage and see what happens there. But at the same time, there's still so many questions over Will Campbell's capabilities. And you guys have said it a billion times, man, another offensive lineman in the first round. I think we all can agree that the offensive line's not fixed. So saying again and again and again is not going to dissuade me from going after it. Again, you got a whole entire new coaching staff as well from this year who already prioritized offensive line. The left side of the offensive line for me is already filled out with said 2 players from the past 2 years. So that doesn't really make me it doesn't have me looking elsewhere because of that, right? Because it's worked 2 years in a row. But I do think that we can take a little bit of creative liberty and look elsewhere. Wide receiver is a key position to look at, right? You lost DeAndre Hopkins, again, lost as in traded. I do think that boundary corner is something that you could still be working on. That being said, Jarvis Brownlee's an absolute stud. You guys know that I was a big fan of him. This is the team that I think needs to trade first. And with the Patriots being a prime target for Will Campbell, are there any teams that are looking to move up? And there are a couple teams I could see get a little bit aggressive here. And you could see a little bit of some, discounts being served. Let's just say the Browns wanted to move up and end up selecting their guy. The problem is the only team I really see being incentivized to move up to 2 is the Jaguars at the moment. And that just makes absolutely no sense. So I don't think that the Patriots or the Titans have any takers. Like, that's the problem. to move up, you got to have a team, or you got to move down, you have to have a team willing to pay to move up. I think the Titans are stuck, and wide receiver makes a lot of sense, but there's also a second round. We also have a potential third round. Could you end up just moving down with the Patriots just so you secure the extra pick? Maybe. But again, like, unless you're going to fleece the Jaguars, do you want to arm the Jaguars with a top left tackle or a top corner? Like, that seems kind of stupid. It kind of does. I don't see any teams actually willing to move up here, even if a discount is applied. So, unfortunately, if we have to stick and pick, I will be going after the boring-ass Will Campbell pick because, again, you look at the return on investment, there's just a massive drop-off in offensive line talent after Will Campbell, and you could say Kelvin Banks as well. I just think that there is a lot of talent that is lost unless you want to count in Josh Simmons, and even then, you are not going to be in striking range of that at 34. The talent that you get a receiver at 34 versus a tackle at 34 is an extreme difference. So don't get too cute with it. Don't get too cute with it. It's worked 2 years in a row. Third time's a charm as well. I mean, it's, again, continue fixing the line. The best teams usually operate with the best lines. And I think that's going to be a big thing for you guys. Will Campbell is going to be an absolute stud. Pick number 3 for the New England Patriots. Again, I think this is the prime opportunity to trade back. I don't see Kelvin Banks being selected by the Jets, and I do see a player in Will Johnson being selected by them. I think this is the prime opportunity for the Jaguars to jump and be able to take a player that I'm pretty sure that Jalen Ramsey had some injury issues coming to the NFL as well. I might be mistaken on that. I know Miles Jack was one of them. That was like the first draft I ever actually like kind of relatively focused on. But for this trade value, I don't think it's going to be anything massive. I do think that third round pick would be sufficient to be able to move up. You could toss in a future fourth as well. Do the calculations on your own. Okay. Like, it is not going to be to the degree based on the fact that, again, there's not going to be massive competition. I think this is a great opportunity for New England to continue arming up. Again, feel free to toss in a future fourth. You can do all of that you want. It's not going to affect this mock draft outside of this pick right here. Again, you could end up going pick 69 and trying to get something in return, but this isn't that nice of a trade. So Jacksonville moves up. Again, you can adjust the trade value as you seek. And Will Johnson is going to be the pick. DJ Reed's up for a contract for the Jets. Definitely think that's a highly possible position for them to grab. And the Jaguars have yet to truly get someone outside of Tyson Campbell who can play boundary corner at a high level. Will Johnson's fantastic. The only reason he should not be the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick is just because he simply is not fully healthy this year. At pick number 4 for the Jets, you can argue going after a quarterback. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility because Cam Ward, he's now moved up to my number 1 QB. I would say like woot woot, that's great. At the same time, I do also want to emphasize the fact that it's kind of due to quarterbacks moving down my board more than him making a massive improvement to move up said board. We will be doing our quarterback video most likely this weekend. Keep that in mind. I will probably delay it until like Monday or Tuesday just because of the fact that we want to see if there's any massive shifts. Let's just say Jalen Milroe has a 6-touchdown game. Let's watch that and let's evaluate that into the fold because right now Jalen Milroe is not doing too hot. I'll put it that way. But I think for the Jets, if they're sitting here at pick 4, you could try to trade down again. But the question I always have to ask, who is going to move up? You could say the Raiders. You could say the Browns. You could say even the Giants. The Giants could want to move up here. And to be fair, you might end up still being able to snipe your player at pick number 10 or pick number 7. So I actually think that it's not a bad idea to make a move here. And I think that with all these teams bidding for a trade up, the one team that needs it the most is the Raiders. Needs it the most for the value they offer. So from 4 to 7 ended up being a good, I ended up putting about 2/3 worth from 3 to 5. I think that it is a relatively similar range. And I think that's going to be perfectly fine. If I'm the Jets, I'm taking that deal. Especially with the future pick. I mean, hell, man, the Raiders are still in desperate need of some extra firepower, which that second round pick will provide. So the Vegas Raiders traded a couple picks to move up and select their quarterback, Cam Ward, QB1 of the class. He's moved up. There's a lot of quarterbacks there in that QB1 to QB4 conversation. But Cam Ward so far has now been back on the positive trend, even off a game with 0 big-time throws and 0 turnover-worthy plays. I still thought he performed pretty damn valiantly. At pick number 5 for the Patriots, we ended up acquiring those extra picks, that pick number 90, as well as a future pick from Jacksonville, which actually I think are lower grade picks than what the New York Jets got. You can, of course, do your own math there, but I think that the Raiders with Cam Ward are going to bounce back a lot better than the Jaguars with Will Johnson. Don't at me there. We're going to go after Kelvin Banks Jr. there. Pick number 6 for the New Orleans Saints. I do really love the idea of going Tetero and McMillan here. It just makes a ton of sense to get yourself someone who is so dynamic as a Mike Evans threat. Now, you could look at the quarterbacks. Again, I really just want to emphasize the fact that I am not a fan of this quarterback class. I don't have a single one with a pure starting grade. I think all of them have their areas where they need to develop, and I'm scared shitless that they're going to be pushed too quickly into action. Now, if the Raiders get a quality offensive coordinator that can make the offense more rhythmic, I think Cam Ward can be very successful in that. I don't think many of these other quarterbacks have the actual capabilities year one of being able to truly succeed in the NFL. Remember, you don't want to take a QB and instantly have to start looking for an actual starting quality QB. Anthony Richardson went at 4th overall, and I loved Anthony Richardson. You know this, but we also were, you guys knew that I fell in love with him in the offseason because I saw him working on his mechanics because he was too damn inaccurate because his mechanics were garbo. All of a sudden, he fucks up his shoulder and he's throwing 44%. Like, there's just stuff like that just, you have to go back to the basics, and I think Anthony Richardson over time can actually get back to where he was because he displayed the work ethic when he was working on his mechanics. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he called himself out of a game, but that's a conversation for the indie pick. I'm saying that even the top-end talents sometimes need time, and they don't need to be thrusted into a situation that would make it a little bit more difficult to develop. I don't think New Orleans is the team to do that. Let's go after Tetero McMillan. Let's just continue loading up, especially with his deep capabilities, his deep speed. In this type of Kubiak offense, it's going to be extremely valuable. So we give Spencer Rattler another weapon for him to try to thrive. Leaving the Jets to sit here and take Mason Graham, you pretty much got 2 free picks. Pick number 8 for the Cleveland Browns. Quarterback makes a ton of sense. It does, because you're looking at the long-term value of the team. You're going to need someone to play in the short run. We're going to see this week if Jameis Winston can actually maintain the success that he had week 1. A lot of quarterbacks come in are kind of 1-week wonders, maybe a 2-week wonder, right? Let's see, because Tommy DeVito is like the whole entire reason the Giants kind of got screwed, right? We'll see if Jameis Winston kind of air quotes screws the Cleveland Browns by having a couple good games, but kind of not being good enough to be reliably the starting quarterback. I pray to God that Jameis Winston ends up proving to be an actual starting quality quarterback. And I'm going to say that it's going to happen. I would not take a quarterback at 8. I would not. It's just too damn early for all the reasons I suggested. Shedeur Sanders would be the next quarterback on that list. Like, that would be the next guy I'd look at. And you could try to pull in the Daddy Sanders thing saying, like, my son ain't going to Cleveland. And you know what? Prime, I support you in that. I really do. Because as much as I love the Cleveland Browns fans, I'm a Steelers fan. And I don't want the Browns to have a quarterback that actually can be in rhythm in the offense. Okay? Just keep that in mind. But jokes aside, Coach Prime actually had a school here in Dallas. So showing all love to Prime, even though I have my particular issues with, a little bit of the level of ego that comes with the Sanders name. I digress, though. I don't think that quarterback is worth the 8th overall pick. I love Shedeur Sanders based on the talent he's been showing, progressing from that Nebraska game, which was an all-time low. It shattered my confidence in him, but now I feel a bit better. Granted, it's comparatively worse to the rest of the quarterbacks, but I've already talked about my issues with the QB class. I'm going after a guarantee. I'm going after Ashton Jeanty. There's more than one round. Again, people are going to say, oh my God, you're taking a running back at 8. That's not possible. Running back went at 2, running back went at 8 before. Don't try to say it's not a thing, because it is. All right? Ashton Jeanty is a better prospect than Jahmyr Gibbs was. Jahmyr Gibbs went at 12. The Lions wanted to take him at 6. Then you have Ashton Jeanty, who is a far superior product. Then, maybe not far superior, but at least at the start of this year, he was a noticeably superior product to even Bijan Robinson. I don't know about Saquon Barkley just yet, but Saquon was number 2 overall pick. And you're looking at Saquon, no disrespect to Jalen Hurts, but essentially making sure Jalen Hurts is carried along with the weapons that they have. He is a focal point of that offense with Kellen Moore. Ashton Jeanty is going to be the Nick Chubb for this offense, and that was something that is a very successful model. I'm going to continue it. Pick number 9 for the Miami Dolphins. Malachi Starks as a second defensive back is not a bad option here. However, I do want to evaluate the opportunity to move back. We do have a team here that is looking for a boundary corner as well as a quarterback. I feel bad for the Giants, man. I mean, the Giants are kind of screwed in this situation, if I'm just going to be completely blunt. Like, they really are in a really, really tough spot. Miami Dolphins are too, to agree. Like, I would say if Ashton Jeanty weren't taken at 8, let's just say it was Shedeur Sanders, right? I would trade up with the Dallas Cowboys and take Jeanty. Like, there's certain teams where there is that relative return on investment that is just that worth it. For the Dolphins, I personally do love the idea of going after Kenneth Grant at this point. You could try to target one at pick 41, and I don't think it would be a bad idea. But there's not many players that have the pure upside that Kenneth Grant does. And you saw, if you guys have been following this series and watched like the progression of Kenneth Grant statistically, he really was in a really bad spot at the start of the year, and he's progressed noticeably. Again, it's a new defensive system. Guys do have some growing pains, and I love Kenneth Grant's motor. I think that it's worth taking the shot on someone who's a little bit raw, but has a ton, sounds like I said raw, but a little bit rawer, and but he still has all the talent in the world. It's what you did with Chop Robinson last year, and to my surprise, it's worked really damn well. I think you might be able to have lightning strike twice. The New York Giants sit here at pick number 10 in need of a quarterback, in need of a corner as well. A boundary corner, that is. You got Dory Jackson on a 1-year contract. I did actually see some guys stepping in for Deontay Banks and actually didn't do too shabby of a job. But I still think that a boundary corner would be a position I think you should take a longer look at. I don't think I'm going to take one here. I do want to be able to evaluate the opportunity to move back. And, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Shedeur Sanders is probably going to be the guy, just because Primetime also loves the opportunity for his son to be in the cameras. And, you know, they do like the attention. I think that's perfectly fair as well. I do think that, you know, with the relative weaknesses of the class, there's a pretty solidified top 4 for me. And you guys aren't going to like it. But in no particular order, it's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Miller Moss, and Drew Allar. Those are the 4. But it's not a great group if I'm gonna be honest. And I'm gonna be real here. I don't see a team wanting to move up. I don't see a team seeing the value in moving up. And you know, I'm gonna go after my QB2. That's Drew Allar. I think he's done a fantastic job this year. If he keeps his knee healthy, because he had that struggle after the first half of the most recent week, then I think he's going to be an absolute stud. Just put a knee brace on, brother, and just pray to God that you don't get popped. But his progression, Drew Allar's progression, I was a Drew Allar hater, hater, QB 17 hater for Drew Allar. His progression has been nearly mind-boggling. He's not just forcing it to Tyler Warren every single play. He kind of was versus USC, but it was working, right? This dude is actually making high-level throws, and for a guy who could not hit a moving target to save his life last year, he is throwing with great precision. Now, yes, there are some slip-ups here and there, but the consistency has improved tenfold. And this is somebody that has videos of him, his throwing motion from middle school to high school to college, every single year improving. Similar to what happened with Anthony Richardson, but I think this one is going to be a little bit more clearer path to find than Anthony Richardson, who played 13 games before coming into the NFL. I'm seeing that progression, that work ethic that I really see working. And Brian Daboll, if he can stay, has worked before with quarterbacks like Josh Allen on fixing their mechanics. I'm going to let Drew Allar, it's a big hot take, but I do think he continues to ascend. And they're playing Ohio State soon, if not within the next week or two. I think that's going to be an absolutely insane opportunity for us to see how damn good Drew Lock can be. Pick number 11 for the Cincinnati Bengals. To me, it's heavily focused on that edge rusher. I know you guys are also saying who can cover and all that other stuff. Defensive line-wise, defensive interior makes sense. You also could look at the boundary receiver position in case T. Higgins doesn't come back for the longer term. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's up. He's on a 1-year contract on a franchise tag. But to be fair, you guys have a lot of really solid weapons there. There's not a ton of positions I think are desperate for the Bengals, and that's a good spot for you guys to be. I also do got to say that Jesse Bates, like the lack of presence of a quality top tier defensive back in the absence of Jesse Bates is kind of palpable. I'm going to roll the dice on this, and I want you guys to give me some feedback on this. I think Malachi Starks can even play boundary corner if he wanted to, but he also is just so damn rangy and so damn smart. You're getting a Swiss Army knife here. I have yet to see this to the Bengals. Please let me know what you guys think of this. I really do want to hear your thoughts. I think Malachi Starks is the best player available outside of probably the quality edge rushers, but I want to take a little bit of a deviant route here because we're going to have some guys who will still be in striking range. At pick number 12 for the Los Angeles Rams, I've been pretty consistent with going left tackle for them, and Alaric Jackson, I mean, you guys have said he's been doing a pretty solid job. I'm not fully sold on him. It's Ursary or Simmons for me. I think getting a 4 to 5 year contract on a young, high upside, high floor tackle is a great opportunity for the Rams that are still going to be in more of a rebuilding mode. And especially if you end up having your quarterback, Matt Stafford, shout out to Dallas, end up returning, you're going to need to protect him. And I'm going to go after the best tackle available. That's Josh Simmons. For the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going after a receiver here. We're seeing the edge rusher slip, which is a big shocker to me because you guys see based on my board, I am in love with the majority of the edge rushers in this class. However, there's some top tier weapons in this class that I think deserve some love as well. I'm letting Isaiah Bond get in the limelight this time. This dude's an absolute stud when healthy. To me, he is the wide receiver 1/2 of the class. Of course, yes, there's going to be some debate there. But at pick number 14 for the Colts, it's interesting because I've taken the majority of players that I normally go for the Colts. And so I honestly think this is the perfect opportunity to trade back. And I'm looking at teams that certainly could be lurking. There's actually, you can see at number 12 overall, I've solidified my love for Azariah Thomas, the corner out of Florida State. I certainly see him as a perfect option for the Niners here. So I don't see many other teams trying to jump up over to be able to select him. So I'm not really fully engaged on moving up with the Niners necessarily, but I could certainly move up with them to jump the Seahawks for a right tackle. And it's going to suck to not take Azariah Thomas to a team they can pair up with Renardo Green again. But I think this is smart for both teams because you're also kind of proverbially flipping off your own in-division rival in the Seahawks. I can't speak English today, can I? We're going to be jumping up here, and from 17 to 15, it took 120. I think 101 might be the proper value. Again, if you want to start tossing in like 249 and such, we'll do 248. The Niners do better with the later picks. Then feel free to do that on your own. I just know 15 to 17 was 120 because that's what the Steelers ended up doing for our star tackle, who apparently has Down syndrome, in Broderick Jones. He's the one who said it, not me. But right now, what I ended up offering us is an opportunity to be able to draft a top-tier offensive tackle that is not necessarily just handed to us by whatever sloppy seconds we get after Seattle. And the question is, do you want Cam Williams, who is an extremely high ceiling offensive tackle, but needs so much development? He's just super young. He shouldn't come out. It's his first year starting. He can go back and be a top 5, top 10 selection next year. Or do you want to go after Arianti Ursary, who is polished up, who's pretty much in the position Cam Williams is now? He was there last year. But Arianti Ursary is now a year ahead in terms of progression. I am going to take that and leave Seattle to have to deal with the potential growth problems, but also opportunities for sure that you will end up getting with Cam Williams. Pick number 15 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could end up going after the tight end route at this point, but I think that it's time to go after the edge rushers. It's too long that we've let Abdul Carter slip. Of course, the NFL really cares about offense. There's so many edge rushers in this class that you could end up legitimately seeing the edge class slip because there's just so many of them. You can end up, like, look at opportunity cost. You might end up still getting a top 15 quality player in the second round, when you can end up getting a top 15 player in another position that you're going to get a top 100 player in the second round, if you guys catch my drift. At pick 16, though, for the Seahawks, I still think offensive line is the king position to draft. And we got the sloppy seconds of the Niners, but at the end of the day, Cam Williams is still going to be an upgrade. Can't rely on the health of, why am I forgetting the Washington State right tackle's name? But you guys know who I'm talking about. And then I'm pretty sure, is Fant there right now? I'm tripping balls on whoever actually is that 1-year veteran that you have. He's actually not doing too horribly comparatively to Abe Lucas. So keep that in mind. But Cam Williams is going to be the bright future for this team. It's just going to take a little bit more growing pains. And for a team like the Niners that are ready now, I think that moving up for that third round pick, or, well, late, or it would have been like late third round, early fourth, was totally worth it. At pick 17, we're back with the Colts. Speaking of pick number 101, oh, it is. It was a compensatory third. So, that makes sense. I think we're in prime position to even trade back again. We're having Ben Morrison return in this one. Fun fact. This is probably the prime opportunity. Please say that. Why have PFF, man? Please, Trevor, I'm begging you, dude. Please grade some more corners. Like, it is killing me to take, like, multiple placeholders. Like, I don't want to switch to another mock draft simulator right now. We have something working, and you guys will be seeing in time that we have a little deal coming that might end up changing the mock draft simulator we use. Spoiler alert. But that won't be for a little while. I really don't like taking placeholders. I hate it, because this is midseason. This should not be happening. I digress, especially for, like, the first round. But for the Colts specifically, could they look at a quarterback? They could. I don't think they should. I don't. Just, especially this class, there's so many guys that are just not ready. Like, there's just no reason for it. Like, why? There's no reason for that. So, looking at it, let's go after the best defensive back. And honestly, I want to start putting this guy in the first round more, because I think that the safety class, even though it does have its really talented players, is not showing enough respect to freak athletes like Nick Eamon-Wari, who have 6'3", 227, and also are just absolute freaking badasses in terms of their ball skills. This dude has multiple pick sixes this year and should have had another one versus LSU. It's dangerous how damn good this player can be. If you can utilize someone who will have a top speed in like the 22, 23 mile per hour range, who is running at 230 pounds, you could stick him at boundary corner in a cover 4 system and just let him fucking fly down the field. You can have Tyreek Hill go up against him. And this dude is going to almost be able to be step for step. Maybe not with Cheetah, but he's damn near step for step with that. That is a freak athlete that needs to have that respect, because he not only is a great athlete, but he has a ton of production to back it up. Nick Eamon-Wari, get to know the name. Where is he at on my board? Nick Eamon-Wari is at number 20. So I think this is perfectly fine. And that's also with Denzel Burke's ass needing to be dropped. So he's number 19 on my board, also including 2 other players who are on IR, essentially out for the year. Pick number 18 for the Chicago Bears. We're going edge rusher here. No bones about it. There's so many good players, but I'm actually going to go after James Pierce. I love Darrell Taylor. I think that he deserves another contract. I also can say that I do not want DeMarcus Walker being the third edge rusher. I think the NFL thrives on having a good rotation of edge rushers. This team needs interior offensive line talent 100%, but we also have 3 picks over the next 100 picks to have to deal with that. Let's go after my number 2 player in the class, James Pierce, another Tennessee Vol to be able to add to this edge core. Pick number 19 for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to look at defensive interior. I'm going to look at edge rusher. I think there's some fantastic options at both. It depends on what size profile that you want. Based on the fact that you drafted a player that has almost identical numbers or statistics to Nick Scorton and kicked him to the inside, I doubt that's what you're looking for on the outside. I am going to look at edge rusher here, but it's going to be Jalen Walker. He's super flexible. He is unbelievably talented. I think, 6'2", 245, right there. This dude is just a freak show. When Mikael Williams was getting a ton of love, people understood that Jalen Walker just had an even better game versus Texas. I think this dude is the future. He's my number 8 player in the draft, and I think that if you have him as a pure linebacker, he is still worth the first round pick. So just get to know the name. He's going to be an absolute stud. At pick number 20 for the Los Angeles Chargers, I'm debating on moving back here. And that's because I think teams that are looking for someone like Nick Scordon, who is a fantastic edge rusher, just ended up pretty much ending Emory Jones's chances of being an NFL tackle. They should be moving up. And I got the Falcons here, who are desperate to go after another top tier edge rusher. The question is, who would be in the market for Nick Scordon? On that note, Luther Burden is also here. On that note, Shedeur Sanders is also here. There's a lot of really good players that do fall in the draft. Jalen Milroe you could bring up as well. But I do think, the Eagles could get aggressive here. I think that's perfectly reasonable. But I don't think any of these edge rushers necessarily operate with enough gusto to be able to separate themselves from what the Eagles will be getting by sticking at 24. You'd really have to reach down into the depths of hell, so to speak, to get Washington Commanders to move up, or the Packers if they wanted to move up for a top tier edge. Bottom line, you are kind of getting a little bit ballsy. What you could do, though, is get ballsy with the Lions. The Lions could get a little bit exciting here because the Chargers, my goal, just to be honest, is to move back and get Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren. One of those two. Or a defensive interior. Both of those are accomplishable at 31. I'm almost going to give a discount. Why the hell would the Chiefs pop up as a primary option? We're going to move up, not with the Falcons, but with the Detroit Lions, because edge 2 is a huge issue for this team. I honestly trust this team to even potentially develop Christian Mahogany, and I thought that was a great 6th round pick. It was a 6th or a 5th round pick, regardless. That was a great pick. And for 20 to 31, I think this is going to need to be a little bit more complex than just a 1-to-1 trade. I think what the Chargers will be asking for is that pick 63. I think you might have to give 84 in return to be able to give the Lions a little bit extra flexibility. But in doing that, I think maybe the Lions give you 132, you toss in 250. Do the math on your own. But I do think the Chargers will want, for that significant of a move back, again, 120 was from 15 to 17. Like, you're talking about an 11-point jump or 11-spot jump. We're going to need some draft capital for that. So I think that the Chargers will be saying, hey, we want a little bit more capital to do here. And the Lions will say, well, we're not going to be losing the amount of picks that are in this mock draft. So they want to be having a little bit more fun towards the end of our video. Regardless, the Lions end up moving up and drafting one of the most fantastic players, especially for their system, who's been unbelievably productive. I think he is more polished than LT Overton. He is more ready than Mikael Williams. And he is honestly a freak show. He's better than the rest of the guys. Maybe JT Tuimoloau can give him a run for his money. But Nick Scordon is a fantastic player who is going to be moving up my board once again because I'm a sucker for Nick Scordon. Pick number 21 for the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to be looking at edge. Surprise, surprise. Once again, we are having Ben Morrison return in this. It's LT Overton or Mikael Williams. I'm going to go after that Georgia connection. Mikael Williams is a fantastic player, just does not have that relative production overall. Pick number 22 for the Denver Broncos. Luther Burden's my guy here. You guys know this. I also think you guys brought up tight end being a very solid option. I respect that, and I think that's certainly something you could focus on, but Luther Burden's after the catchability is just too good to pass on. Pick number 23 for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm starting to say fuck the offensive line, and that's rare for me to say, but it's also because I don't think this class is very good. Wyatt Milam is the guy who I would consider here offensive line-wise. I honestly think edge rusher with LT Overton, who's 283 pounds, but he's like the most jacked 283-pound guy outside of Shamar Stewart that you will study. He deserves to be drafted to the Baltimore Ravens. He's just a freak show. I'd be scared shitless if I'm the Steelers, which is my favorite team. So not too happy about that in terms of if we had to see LT Overton all the time, especially if he developed. But very raw player. Of course, Texas A&M kind of does that to players, but LT Overton going to be taking that 23. Pick 24 for the Philadelphia Eagles. The key positions are edge rusher as well as tight end. I know that at pick 56, the Titans are going to be gone. This pisses so many people off. I know. Dallas Goedert's going to be 29, if not 30, by the time that next season's rolling. Tyler Warren is a superstar, 260 pounds. He is literally the whole entire identity of Penn State's receiving offense. Anybody who doesn't like Tyler Warren to the Eagles doesn't know what they're talking about. The only reason that I justify counters to this is because it's in the first round. I respect that. I get it. I understand it. but I'm going to have Tyler Warren be the pick for the Eagles because I know in round 2, I feel confident in the edges I could either move up for or the edges that might even still slip to me at 20 or at whatever pick we have, 56. Pick number 25 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, the one person who I trust really to kind of like quell a lot of personality concerns is Mike Tomlin. And Shedeur Sanders has been a lot better recently. Again, that Nebraska game was the precipice. It was literally just the personification of a horrific performance. And not just because like you're not looking at statistically, because it was not a good game, but when it was talking about leaving the field early and all these other factors, there were certainly a lot of things. It's like, damn, dude, that's not a starting like that's not a quarterback for a quarterback or NFL locker room. He's cleaned up that. I'll give him credit where credit is due. I haven't heard any shit about Shedeur Sanders in a long time. That, to me, is something that I think we all need to have those personal progress moments. We all slip up. I'm actually going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's actually learned his lesson. That might come to bite me in the ass. But I'd prefer to be optimistic about this. And I also know that Tomlin is that type of guy to where he can end up actually making sure that that doesn't really happen at least too often if it becomes an issue. We're going to go Shedeur Sanders for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It sounds crazy, but I will say this. Russ on a 1-year deal. Justin on a 1-year deal. There's no guarantee they're coming back. And even if you do bring back Russ, which Russ right now is playing on a $40 million contract that's just being paid by the Colts. Or not Colts, the Broncos, excuse me. But do you think he's going to play for a vet min? I don't know. If he does, then we'll change the pick. But I think Shedeur Sanders has a very similar floor of play to what Russell Wilson brings, and so far that brings a lot of success. Pick number 26 for the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to look primarily at corner for this team. People are also talking about running back being a very valid option, but Siobhan Revell makes a lot of sense. He's physical. He's just coming back from an ACL tear. I'm going to double down on my favorite player, cornerback-wise, in the class. That's Azariah Thomas. We're using Fentrell Cypress as a placeholder because they play on the same team. But my number 12 player, Azariah Thomas, regraded him today because finally we had some all-22 on him from that Miami game. Woot woot. But this dude's an absolute freak show. He's a physical press man corner. He belongs with Brian Flores. Pick number 27 for the Buffalo Bills. You could get a punchy defensive interior here in Walter Nolan, and honestly, I really love the idea of that. You're pretty much getting what you kind of thought you were getting with Ed Oliver, no disrespect to him, but you're getting that value at 27. Maybe not to the same degree. Like, I think that if you average out the draft and then the current view of Ed Oliver, you get the stock of what Walter Nolan is now, and at 27, that's a great value. Pick number 28 for the Green Bay Packers. It's a good spot to just take best player available. I do think that you should be in a position to where Siobhan Revell, at his size, at his frame, with the progression that he still kind of needs to have, it makes a lot of sense for him to learn from Jair Alexander, but the press man ability is certainly something that fits your defensive mindset, so I think that's going to be a good fit. At pick number 29 for the Washington Commanders, again, Ben Morrison is considered out in this. I'm going to be looking at the edge room. And there's Princely Umamielen, but I'm looking primarily at two players, Shamar Stewart and JT Tuimoloau. I think JT gets a bad rap. I do. I mean, the thing is, this dude, he's just progressed so much, and I was the JT Tuimoloau hater when he ended up playing Georgia in that playoff game. He ended up being one of my least favorite picks, and when everyone's talking about him as a first-round pick, I was like, dude, I cannot see this guy being a starter whatsoever. So take it from a former hater. I'm actually a big supporter of JT Tuimoloau, and at that size, 270 pounds, he does a fantastic job being a very adequate athlete for the NFL. At pick number 30 for the Houston Texans, it's defensive interior or it's left guard. Don't worry, I actually listened to your comments, and I think Tyler Booker's a good fit. You could look at Donovan Jackson here. You could look at Tate Ratledge. And does that give you reason to potentially want to trade back or go to 62 for it? I think it does. I don't think that you need to be pressed into making a decision at this pick. I will say, however, you got the Chiefs. If they want to move on from Trey Smith, they're going to be one of the guys who takes a guard. The Bears, they're going to be right up there with you. You could also look at several other teams like the Jaguars that might be looking to fill that guard role, as Walker Little potentially could be their left tackle of the future. So there's a lot of teams that could be kind of lurking in that interior offensive line realm where it is the best player available. And because of that, I don't think I can move back from here. We are going to actually end up going after Tyler Booker, who has even left tackle capabilities, but he's just someone who's rock solid. He hasn't been statistically unbelievable this year, but the eye test certainly passes with Tyler Booker. We're going to be reevaluating him, but for the time being, I really do think that he's a solid lock for the end of the first/early second. Pick number 31 for the Chargers. We ended up trading back and getting exactly what we wanted, and that is Colston Loveland. Perfect fit in the offense because, well, guess what? Even though he's not a Roman guy, he is still a Harbaugh receiver. So I love Colston Loveland. He's done a fantastic job performing. He has 2.74 yards per route run in an offense that throws 3 yards per game. Like, that's all I got to say there. He literally is the only guy who performs in that offense. And it's not a diss to the rest of the offense. It's a diss to the damn quarterbacks not actually performing whatsoever and then being so run heavy. At pick 32, though, ending off the first round, I think that, I'm actually like thinking a little bit more about the Packers. Green Bay, since the draft's going to be there, I'm thinking about potential options for them of guys who are in the area. Ricardo Hallman is actually a really good bet for the Packers. Thinking for the future, guys, let me know what you think about that. Not in the first round, but maybe in like the second or the third. If they want to pass on corner in round 1, might be a sneaky option for them. But at pick number 32, I go back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's see who is still available. We got some top tier edge rushers here. And based on Josh Uche being acquired, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you're going to be looking for an edge rusher here. Kamen Rucker's coming off a 93 PFF grade week versus, to be fair, it's versus Virginia. But you also got Kyle Kennard here. You also have Shamar Stewart. And I know that Spags likes his bigger guys. Uche, not one of them. But 290 pounds and a freak athlete sounds kind of enticing. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But when you look at the tackles, I actually kind of want to roll the dice on Jack Nelson here. In worst case scenario, you should put Kingsley Suamataia at right tackle anyways. He sucked at left tackle in college. He was better at right tackle, but I'll leave that there. I think Kingsley Suamataia is going to need a couple years to develop. Was not a fan of him. I'm a fan of Jack Nelson. I really am. We're going to take the dice roll and go for Jack Nelson here. And that's going to be the video. Tomorrow's going to be rounds 2 and 3. I was ready to roll into it. I'm like, ooh, let's go with the Bears. But we actually survived the light for this time. I'm super excited for that. But let's not push it too far. I love you guys. See you on the far side. Peace.